Swing Shift was the initial one. We met there after doing that. After falling in love, we decided to be married and had a child. At 79 years old, Goldie Horn's life appears idyllic from the outside. A smile that never fades, legendary movies and decades-long cooperation that bucked Hollywood rules. Despite appearances, there is a story of treachery, heartbreak, and situations that nearly broke her. Her ex-lover's public condemnation lasted for years. The hurt from an affair that made her doubt her entire life, and the always-on edge, worried that joy could vanish. Despite the ups and downs, one man loved her unconditionally because he saw her for who she really was. Prior to the fairy tale, that was the deciding factor for Goldie. Born on a certain day in the year, this city's date is November 21st, 1945, into a household that combined order, creativity, and grief. Edward Horn, her father, was a band conductor and musician of mixed English and German ancestry. He was a descendant of the youngest signer of the Declaration of Independence, Edward Ruthold. Laura, her mother, was an immigrant from Hungary whose family owned a shop and a dancing studio. Goldie and her sister Patty were raised in a Jewish home in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Edward Jr., the girl's older brother, was never introduced to them, who had passed away while still a baby, a silent tragedy that haunted the family even after Patty was born. Goldie had a natural talent for dance and was proficient in ballet and tap by the time she was 3 years old. She had a glimpse of her future stage persona in her Nutcracker performance at the age of 10, when she sang the duet Ruschi of Monte Carlo, eventually bring fame to her. She dropped out of college after studying theater, but by 1964 she was already playing in Romeo and Juliet, and even ran her own ballet school. At the New York World's Fair, she debuted as a professional dancer in Canaan at the Texas Pavilion. Hollywood grabbed notice of her later while she was performing as a go-go dancer in clubs all around New Jersey and New York. She shot to fame in 1968 after appearing on Laugh with Rowan and Martin. Because of her hilarious timing, infectious smile, and sharp wit, she quickly becomes a fan favorite. Simply after a year, she won both the Golden Globe and Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Cactus Flower. Hits continued to pour in after that. A few favorites: Shampoo, Private Benjamin, Butterflies Are Free, Overboard, and The First Wives Club. However, despite the success of her profession, her personal life was a whirlwind of ups and downs, with 2 marriages that left ugly wounds. In 1969, she tied the knot for the first time with dancer Gus Trailonis. Their paths eventually parted as Gold's star began to rise. She became one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but Gus had a hard time finding work. Stars who are in high demand, although they legally split in 1973, they didn't finalize their divorce until 1976. She wed musician Bill Hudson only a few short weeks afterward. Oliver and Kate were born into the union, but their marriage did not last. Hudson initiated legal action. He filed for a dissolution of his marriage in 1980 and subsequently accused Goldie of being manipulative and ignoring him after they had children. For decades, the animosity lingered. In the early 1980s, Goldie had been through 2 divorces, was a single mother, and was doubtful that she could ever find love again. Her ex-husbands had publicly attacked her. The second meeting came as a surprise. When Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell met for the first time in 1966, it was on the set of the only real original Family Band. She was a working actress at the age of 21, while he was a little boy brought by his mother on set at the age of 16. They knew each other due to the age difference. The sensation persisted, even though nothing could transpire. Goldie confessed in an interview from 2012 that she felt the actor was cute, but that he was too young for the role. Immediately, Kurt recalled the vitality she exuded. She was impossible to miss, he informed Variety. Years later, she had this spark. They didn't cross paths again for another 17 years. By 1983, they were both divorced. Goldie was raising Oliver and Kate alone, and Kurt was splitting up with actress Susan Hibley, who was his son's mother, Boston. Neither of them was seeking love. In fact, they were emotionally distant and hesitant to commit following the breakdown of their marriages. Fate took a hand in Kurt's casting for the WWEC romantic drama Swing Shift. He was having a terrible day, he'd been out the night before with his dad and was feeling a bit loopy when he stepped into the room. Instead of quoting a script, he made an unfiltered comment. "Man, you got a great figure." It was by most people's standards the worst conceivable pickup line. Rude, poorly timed and unpolished, Kurt would later confess that he deliberately put his worst foot forward, thinking maybe there's a chance of something real if you can handle that. Goldie didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled and replied, "Why, I'm grateful." That moment was the final straw. Shortly after, they went on their first date, which started at the Playboy Club but took an unexpected turn when they broke into a house that Goldie had purchased but hadn't received the keys for. As they looked about, the night became intimate in the vacant rooms until the police came and forced them to leave. They ended the evening at a hotel, and that chaotic, imperfect night set the tone for their relationship, unplanned, unusual, and somehow just right. But Goldie had an even bigger test ahead of her. Not only that, but she had two small children whose safety and security were more important than any love interest. What changed everything was seeing Kurt with Oliver and Kate, not just because he was captivating her, but because he was establishing himself as a family member and earning a place in her heart. Goldie Hawn had seen enough of Kurt Russell to know he was different by the time Swing Shift filming concluded. The turning moment wasn't in romantic gestures or spectacular statements, but in the gentle way he handled her children. On set, Oliver and Kate were never second fiddle to him. He knelt to their aid. He was such a natural, Goldie reflected later on the experience, describing him as someone who was level, listened attentively when they spoke, and managed to make them laugh without trying too hard. More important than everything else was that for a woman who had experienced burning twice previously, the hard way, she'd realized that charisma could be temporary, but real concern for her children was unmistakable. They weren't just dating in those first few months. Kurt had a son, Boston, from a previous marriage to Caesar Hibley, so he knew the value of taking things carefully when it came to establishing trust. Wyatt Russell was born in July 1986, further expanding their family. By that point, they had fallen into a rhythm that outsiders hardly saw: school drop-offs, birthday celebrations, extended dinners at home. While the couple's glitz and glamour may have captivated Hollywood, their actual lives were consumed by raising 4 children in the spotlight. It wasn't an easy task, and rumors about their growing independence from one another persisted throughout the years. Moments when they appeared to be growing apart. The most trying test occurred in November 2000 when photos of Kurt leaving a message parlor with a dubious reputation circulated. The couple didn't end up breaking up, but the aftermath was painful. Friends claimed that Goldie was enraged and devastated, her ego damaged, crushed by the news. She never spoke about it publicly, but according to insiders, she never really got over that moment. It served as a reminder that trust may be shaken even in a lengthy commitment. Despite this, they stayed together, deciding to work through the damage instead of walking away. Years later, Goldie explained that their relationship was built on something different than marriage. Every morning, they consciously chose to stay together, not because a contract bound them, but because they wanted to. This choice, despite the challenges, kept them moving forward, choosing love. Hollywood is known for its frequent breakups, so the topic of why Goldie Horn and Kurt Russell, who have been together for nearly 40 years without exchanging wedding rings, has persisted among fans and journalists for decades. The question has long piqued people's interest, and Goldie has never been coy about answering it. She has been forthright in interviews about the importance of a long-term commitment in her relationships, rather than trying to avoid making a commitment at all. According to her 2015 interview with Porter magazine, it's not about marriage, it's about compatibility and communication, and you both need to want it to work. She went on to say that marriage, in her view, alters the dynamic by bringing in expectations and resentments, which can weaken the bond. In her perfect marriage vision, she noted partnership as the two supports that hold the house and its roof together. Being unique, not agreeing on everything, and learning to cope with disagreements. However, Goldie's reasoning has a darker side, influenced by the sorrow of her previous divorces. She didn't sugarcoat it in an interview she gave to CNN in 2023. It becomes a major deal when things don't work out. How many divorces are enjoyable? How many don't cost money? How many don't make you hate the other person even more? How many haven't harmed children? Her decision to forego marriage had nothing to do with rejecting love, but rather with sidestepping the consequences she had experienced twice before. Kurt has expressed a similar opinion. In 2023, he disclosed to Variety that during the early stages of their relationship, they inquired about their children's thoughts on the topic. He said that was enough to end the conversation. They have recorded their years together without rings and vows, raising 4 children, and with the idea of marriage which none of them cared about. Why should anybody care about that? Goldie finds strength in knowing that every day they're together is because they choose it, not because they're forced into a relationship, after enduring scandals, building a home, and becoming grandparents. They've walked countless red carpets side by side, supported each other's careers, and suffered the kind of storms that often end celebrity relationships. Their decision has become so integral to their tale that it practically defines them as a couple. Although it has served them well, it hasn't protected them from the hardships of real life, including times that challenge not just their connection, but also their feeling of security. Goldie Horn and Kurt Russell had already encountered their fair share of personal difficulties by the time 2023 came along. However, nothing had prepared them for the devastating realization that their home was no longer a safe haven. It all started one evening when they departed from their Los Angeles residence for dinner. Although they were only gone for a few hours, Goldie's heart fell upon returning to her closet. The door had been bashed in, and it wasn't just any door, it was a strong reinforced one. Inside, she found jewelry, and their belongings had been stolen by trespassers who had gained access to their bedroom through the balcony. Goldie said, "I walked into my closet and just lost it on Kelly Ripa's podcast," recalling the moment when she had lost control of her emotions. Experts in their field, she believed the nightmare had ended. However, 4 months later, while she was alone at home, she recalled hearing a resounding thud upstairs, and initially disregarded it, assuming it might have been an outside noise. The following morning, she and Kurt found fresh evidence of an attempted break-in. It was then that she had a sobering realization: they had been targeted twice in less than 6 months. The focus had shifted from stolen goods to individual security. Ever since that day, Goldie would not go home alone unless there was a security guard on duty. "I'm never without a guard now," she declared. The couple decided to take a bolder step, leaving their Malibu home and moving to Palm Desert, more than 2 hours inland. They were leaving their children and grandkids behind, but the risk didn't seem worth it anymore. Goldie said that the trauma and the feeling of violation remained with her even in Palm Desert. As she has done all her life, she faced the fear of strangers entering their most private space with Kurt by her side. This proved that even though they might not have married, they had always chosen to stand together in times of crisis. Kurt was the man who matched her heart. Despite the ups and downs of their relationship, Goldie Hawn has always been firm on one thing: she could never find another man who could make her feel the way she does for Kurt Russell. In April 2024, when appearing on Conan O'Brien's Needs a Friend podcast, she revealed the exact moment she met Russell. Understood, it wasn't about his good looks, though she thought he was handsome, nor about his charisma or his Hollywood fame. Rather, it was about something more profound, something she treasured more than anything else: his devotion to his family. Goldie had Oliver and Kate from her marriage to Bill Hudson, and she was not going to let just anybody into their lives, so it wasn't simply about his looks or anything else that made her fall for him. She stated it was because he shared her love to children, lives. However, Kurt didn't merely assume the role, he wholeheartedly embraced it. His dedication to her children matched that of his own son Boston, and later, their son Wyatt. The priority they shared led to what she terms elasticity in their relationship, the capacity to adapt. It can be challenging to be monogamous, especially in Hollywood. Goldie said to A! News in September 2024, but she also said, without breaking, to stretch when life pulls in different directions, and to always snap back together. Her honesty about the challenges of long-term love is refreshing. She acknowledged that you may have romantic attraction to other people, but it doesn't necessarily imply you act on those sentiments. The key for them has been being open and talking about these things. You're in the prime of your life. By 2025, they had been together for over 41 years, and Goldie feels that one reason they've survived longer than many celebrity couples is because they're honest about what's genuine and not pretending it doesn't exist. In that year, they were both present at the Academy Awards, where Goldie in her vibrant yellow Dolce & Gabbana gown and Kurt in his classic black tuxedo looked every inch the Hollywood royalty they are. However, beneath all the glitz and glitter, there was a simpler story: the way they looked at each other, enduring each other's company throughout the years. Kurt's response to a question regarding their time together was as straightforward as the initial statement: "I simply love the fact that we met, and we are still doing it." They have persevered through divorces, blended families, despite facing public humiliation, break-ins, and the gradual effects of aging. Goldie has remained steadfast in her belief that he is the one who truly understood her heart. This she values more than any wedding ring. Their narrative may not be flawless, but it was always destined to be. Have you a favorite Goldie Horn and Kurt Russell scene, whether it's from the movies or real life? Share it with us in the comments. Maybe that's why their relationship has endured. They haven't stayed together because of obligation, but rather because they have repeatedly chosen to. Also, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and come back next time for more fascinating biographies of Hollywood's A-listers.